guys, you are tuned into another episode of Victoria Jenn TV, and today I'm talking to Edwin Mejia, and he's going to share with us how he's managed to transition from a career on Wall Street and now as a successful entrepreneur for 10 years plus. He is the man behind the Generation Iron Network. We're actually here in the offices today, and he'll be sharing more about his story and how he's managed to raise millions and work with some stars you just might know, such as The Rock, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this guy right behind me, Jeremy Scott. So stay tuned, get your pen and your notebook ready because you're gonna learn a lot. Hey guys, you are tuned into another episode of Victoria Jenn TV, and today I'm joined by Edwin Mejia. We're actually here in his company's office, and we'll go into more detail about all of that good stuff because there's so much magic coming out of this office. But I wanted to start today first by saying thank you for joining me. Edwin is usually never in front of the camera. He's usually representing talent that's in front of the camera. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. So where did you grow up?
I was born in the Bronx, born and raised in New York City, and then I moved to Queens at, I think I was like 7, 8 years old. So I, born and raised in New York City my whole life, and interesting enough, when I left the Bronx, I grew up in the Catholic school system, my whole life, and then fast forward, I've been living in New York my whole life. I lived in LA for a little bit, but mostly out of New York.
Interesting. And then you said that you went from a predominantly Latino community to an Irish community, right?
I did. So it was an interesting transition because when I left the Bronx, I went from a very Latino, Dominican, Puerto Rican neighborhood all the way to an Irish Italian neighborhood in Queens. So that was a very interesting shift for me because I couldn't really identify with anybody in my neighborhood, my new neighborhood. So I felt myself trying to fit in. From a very early age.
So toning down your Latino-ness.
Yes.
And trying to fit more in with the demographic. Okay, interesting. So you grew up in Queens for the latter half, and then where did you land? Where was your first kind of professional role?
Well, I grew up going to Catholic school my whole life, and then I went to Pace University, my undergrad. I wanted to do finance. Ever since I was maybe a teenager, I used to see all these movies like Wall Street and Boiler Room and all these. I had older friends and older cousins that were in finance, so I was always inspired by the whole Wall Street appeal. And I've always wanted to just make money. I think as a young kid who always wanted to have things, and really just be like his friends, and I wanted to work on Wall Street, and that's how everything kind of shifted for me. I studied finance, and then I started doing internships in school. And my first internship was at Fifth Barney, working for a huge portfolio asset manager here in New York. And my first real boss in finance was a woman. She was a really, really amazing boss. I learned a lot from her, and that was my inspiration to go into finance.
Interesting. It's so funny when we and I grew up in finance too. It's almost like it's what's marketed to us, and it's signifies some type of freedom because we usually come from very humble beginnings. I don't know about you, but I know I did. And so finance just sounds right because it sounds like money, and it sounds like freedom, and it sounds like, okay, I can start here. There's something here, and it's also what's marketed to us. I think
It is. I mean, that's how I grew up. Everything was marketed. Everything was told about, are you going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or are you going to go into finance? And that's how my parents always, told me, make sure you pick one of those 3 fields, and that's what I did.
Interesting. Did you know, fun fact, so the Boiler Room, there's a scene in that movie that was recorded in my dad's restaurant at the time, right on 57th Street between, I think it was 6th and 7th. It was called Wolf's Deli, and they filmed a scene there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes.
But I should revisit
Yes, that is a fun fact. But yeah, my dad was a little celebrity. He was very excited at the time. All right, so you were in finance for a little bit, and now I want to get to the juicy stuff because now you've been an entrepreneur for how many years now?
It's good. It's almost 10 years now.
10 years. Well, first of all, kudos, congratulations to you because that is no small feat that you've been able to survive for 10 years. But talk about, so you left finance, why?
So fast forward, so go rewind. 2004, I got an offer at Lehman Brothers. This is after I've been working as an intern in finance for like 2-3 years. I got an offer to work in Wall Street, as an analyst at Lehman Brothers. I took the job. They gave me a bonus, a signing bonus.
Ooh, I love those bonuses.
At 21, 22 at the time, who knew that you can get that much money as a kid, and all I wanted to do is just make money, support my family, and pay whatever loans I had left to pay, and it did that for a good 4 years. I learned a lot. I made a lot of friendships, and I just felt like I wasn't learning enough. I didn't feel fulfilled. I felt like I didn't have, a lot of interest and passion for finance anymore, and I wanted to really cultivate my creative ambition, so to speak. And that started to grow over time, and I had a friend that was working in film who was one of my best friends, went to NYU Film School, and he started producing a documentary at the time that I started helping him with while I was working at Lehman, and then May 2008 came and I put my 2 weeks notice in.
Interesting. And then you shared with me kind of behind the scenes how you were basically living off your savings, trying to kind of pursue this creative route.
I did. I mean, I was very fortunate that I was able to save while I was working on finance, and I said to myself, what's the worst thing that can happen? I just moved back home and started all over again. I was still relatively young at the time, and I took a risk. I partnered up with my good friend who's a film director, and I wanted to produce. I've always had a passion for the arts. I started working with him on producing this doc. We sold the doc to Sony, and that spurred the growth of our production relationship and our partnership, and that's where we are today.
Interesting. So let's dive into that. So you made the leap into entrepreneurship, but not only did you make the leap, but you completely reinvented yourself because you went into a new industry from finance now into kind of this production space. So how was that transition for you? Was that learning curve super steep? What were you insecure about?
There was a lot of things that I was worried about and scared about. There's a lot of things that I learned about film and entertainment and, the media field is that I've always wanted to create content, and I've always wanted to find a way to create value. So working in real estate, commercial real estate and finance, when I worked in Lehman, I learned a lot about how businesses create value, or real estate companies create value in their properties and their businesses, and I wanted to do the same thing for film, and that's what really attracted me a lot to the arts. So I always saw myself as a producer and a content producer. And I started growing a lot of relationships with a lot of the music studios that needed a lot of help to produce their music catalogs, with a lot of the TV film studios. So we started developing a lot of relationships with like a lot of the big major outlets like Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and a lot of the big film studios as well. So we started creating content for a lot of the studios and in partnerships with a lot of different artists, and that's how we started to grow our content, our catalog, and our operations.
So how did this start? Because it wasn't just handed to you. Like, what do you do? Let's just say the top 3 things that got you to producing content for like Netflix as an example.
It's funny. I describe film as, the success for film and TV and content is really being at the right place at the right time, but also being prepared for it, for the right opportunity and the right production. And I think it was a combination of those things, where we were prepared and the right opportunity presented itself with the music studios. The music studios at the time, if you recall, around 2008, 2009, they were having a really tough time selling music. So they saw the value that we were providing them by marketing their music catalogs and their artists through our documentaries. So that was our opening into the content space, creating content with music labels and music artists that are very, very well recognized. We did a documentary on Big Pun, believe it or not, that sold really well to Sony. Then our first major film called Last Day of Summer, a movie that we produced with Nikki Reed from Twilight, was a movie that took off because, one, she was in Twilight. The movie, Last Day of Summer, was not our best film, but it was a drama that we produced. My business partner directed, and the film just took off right after Twilight hit because of her name. And the movie was produced for roughly around $1 million, a little under $1 million. And and it was sold to We sold it to Showtime, Entertainment One, and we sold it around the world. The movie was a big success. But our biggest success to date has been Generation Iron. Generation Iron was a movie that we put together in 2012. It was a sequel of sorts to the movie Pumping Iron that introduced Arnold to the world.
Pumping Iron.
Yes.
What a suitable name.
So what we did was that movie, we partnered up with American Media Inc., the publishers of Muscle and Fitness magazine, Men's Fitness, Shape magazine, and they also own the Mr. Olympia competition, which is a big, kind of like the Oscars of fitness. So we partnered up with them. We started producing this movie Generation Iron with the original producer of Pumping Iron, and we gathered up these huge bodybuilding professional athletes, and the movie, we released it in 2013. It was top 5 highest grossing doc at the box office.
So how is that connection made? Like, how did you get into the fitness space?
What we did was we partnered up with a lot of the athletes. So the athletes came on board, the most recognized athletes at the time in 2012, through the Muscle and Fitness and Flex magazine. We produced it. My producing partner directed it, and then we got the movie. We released it in September of 2013.
So the Pumping Iron movie. So whose idea was that? Like, how did that come about?
That idea came about
because that essentially what started.
That's what started the Generation Iron Network, which is a publishing network that we now own.
Right, which has
been one of the biggest, success for us, obviously, today.
Right, and he's being very humble because it's a very big deal. But it was this Pumping Iron.
So Pumping Iron
kind of like
idea.
the introduction. So how did that come about?
We were big fans of Pumping Iron. We met with the director initially and the producer, Jerome Gary, who's based out of California. We were big fans of the sport for many years. And we started meeting a lot of these athletes, some of them that are based here in New York, guys like Kai Green, Phil Heath, a lot of these guys who have tremendous followings in the fitness space. And we realized that a lot of these guys are misunderstood in the mainstream industry and mainstream world because people consider a lot of fitness athletes as dumb meatheads in a way, right?
Yes.
But we realized very quickly that there was a science to what they did. And they're very, very intelligent. They had a lot of humor, a lot of charisma, a lot of character. We put that into film and put that together. It became a very inspiring documentary. It became one of the most well-known documentaries in his lifetime. In fact, it was the best-selling sports films for several years. We sold it to Netflix. I went around to Cannes, Berlin, all the different markets around the world, and I sold it for celebs. We sold it to almost 15, 20 distributors internationally.
Wow.
And ESPN also picked it up. We sold it to Stars as well. And the movie was just huge. It made about $1 million at the box office in 2013. And slowly we realized that there was a bigger opportunity for content in the fitness space. So what we did was we converted that audience that we had on the film side for the fitness content, which is so massive already. We had about 1 million. Actually, no. I had about 700,000 followers on our Facebook page. This is before the big boom of YouTube and Instagram. And what we did was we invested into a media company when they called it the Generation Iron Fitness Network. We took that audience and we started creating content for that audience. We hired some writers, we hired some producers, and we started creating a lot of content for that world. And then we started attending a lot of the big bodybuilding shows, a lot of the big events, and we became the actual live event producers for the Arnold Classic event, which is in many ways kind of like the Emmys. Also the Mr. Olympia competition, we started producing that show in Vegas. And then slowly the network became huge, probably #1 in the world. We have over 1.2 million subscribers now. We have over 1.2 million Facebook followers, over 610,000 Instagram followers, and now we publish in Brazil, we publish in Persia, we publish in Russia, and we're about to start publishing in India as well.
That's amazing.
So it's grown into a massive global brand, and we're very, very happy about that. We have tremendous branding, relationships that we've built over the years. So now, not only do we create content for Netflix, which is a huge partner of ours on a lot of our docs, we have huge sports nutrition companies that you see at GNC or Vitamin Shop or bodybuilding.com, for instance, that also do co-branding events with us, and they'll brand their products on a lot of our content, a lot of native advertising. So that's how we've grown as a fitness publisher as well.
So you've constantly reinvented yourself. Did you just learn it as you go? Did you fake it until you make it? Like, how did that come about?
We always saw an opportunity in everything that we did. So sometimes we would hit a barrier. Sometimes a film would not necessarily go as far as we thought it would go. We would produce a documentary or a movie, and we realized, we soon realized that we need to have the distribution rights to our films and not just give it away to a distributor. The traditional route is you produce a movie, then you sell it at a big festival, and you go home.
But my question is, sorry to interrupt you, but this is like a good point that I want to drive home. Right? So not the company, Edwin. Edwin has had to wear many hats, right?
To a degree, yes.
So how did you go from producer to business development, co-founder, to being a manager for talent? Like, how does this continuously happen? Like, what are you doing?
We, every single time we hit an obstacle, like I said, I create a different opportunity, right? We slowly realized early 2012, 2013 that content is going to be the most important aspect of our business.
Yeah.
So I realized very quickly that I had to develop relationships with talent in our industry in order to create the right content. Sometimes it doesn't matter if you have the resources in the world, you still need the right talent. So very early on, the success of Generation Iron has created so many opportunities for us to create talent management in the talent space, and then we were also able to create more content because of the talent that we had on board. So, from an analytical standpoint, when you look at companies like Netflix and Amazon, they're very analytical based as opposed to the art, right? They look at the numbers, they see how much viewership these guys have, they see how many followers they have. All those things we take into account here as well. And I realized that we needed to cultivate those relationships with the talent side in order to develop different businesses as well. I realized that creating content is only as good as the volume that you have, obviously, but for us, since we started out small, volume is not necessarily the number one thing for us to create. I mean, we had to create quality content with the top influencers, and that's what we started to do.
So when it comes to you negotiating on these deals, did your experience in finance, I think it was like a $4 billion portfolio you headed over?
Yeah, we did. We had a global real estate portfolio for, I would say about $4 billion.
So with that training or experience, is that what helped you when you're going into these meetings and negotiating on your deals?
I would say the biggest learning, the number one thing I learned from finance is that really the work ethic was what really got me to this point where I can commit myself to work smart, but also very effectively, and I think that a lot of people that go into entertainment, the one advantage that I think I do have over a lot of people in the entertainment world is the fact of having that work ethic, that I was able to bring. And of course, working in a corporate structure allowed me to really help us get organized as a business, be able to set the right business plan, be able to create the right business relationships. And then, like I said, it's all about the distribution, being able to identify the distribution, key points of distribution for our business and for our content.
So you had mentioned when you were growing up that, when you moved, you were trying to fit in. Financial services, I assume you felt that same way. Latino in finance was very scarce at that time. So does this profession allow you to be Latino all day, every day, and be Edwin?
That's a great question. When I worked, and you're right, when I worked in finance, I found myself trying to fit in, and I felt myself trying to be someone that I'm really not. And I think that we live in a world now where everybody wants to be and wants to represent who they really are, and that's what's special about the moment that we're in now. And I think that's something that I really appreciate about the entertainment industry. And I think it's not just because of where I'm in the entertainment industry. I think that is something that's worldwide now in every sector. And of course, at the time, I had felt a need to want to fit in the finance and entertainment. I felt being myself was the biggest X factor for me in my relationships in order for people to trust me and take me serious and just accept me for who I am. And I think that's worked really great for me over the last several years.
So, I mean, are you saying that biases don't exist in the entertainment industry?
They do.
Okay.
They do. However, I think that if you present yourself very, very genuinely and very direct and you're yourself, I think people will be able to trust you more long term. And I think it depends on the type of business that you're in, but I think that if you're cultivating relationships and you're building relationships, you have to be able to come across as transparent and being yourself as opposed to not. And when I know myself very well to know that if I'm being myself, I think the best comes out of me, and I'm able to create the right relationships and the right collaborations that way.
Yeah, I would say that the entertainment industry is one that really allows you to truly be yourself 1000% because of the nature of the industry. Sure. So when you think of people like a Cardi B as an example, if she was in another industry, she probably wouldn't be as successful as she is right now.
Sure.
Because she's an entertainer, right? And we are surely entertained. She's also talented as well. But, it's entertainment, so it's more acceptable.
Without a doubt. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you have to be able to understand what it is about yourself that is the biggest selling point to anybody that wants to work with you. However, I think that in this field as well, if you're looking for investors or you're looking to raise capital for a venture or a film, I think that being who you are, has worked in my advantage. And I've been able to raise financing for a variety of our projects, and I've done that by being who I am, which is very different than when I was in finance.
Yeah.
And I feel I identify with that greatly today.
So let's get to some tea. So you hang out with a lot of athletes who have a lot of followers. You're also in an industry that attracts a lot of people. You got a lot of groupie love, and how do you manage that?
I stay true to myself, honestly. I've been really, really fortunate to work with people that I enjoy working with and that I genuinely want to represent. We just opened our talent division about a year and a half ago, really in helping athletes, get into more TV alternative content. And being able to work with a lot of these huge influencers has been, in many ways, a learning experience, but it's also been a blessing for our business and for our collaboration. We really do end up working very well with a lot of these big name influencers because we end up providing them with a value that they're not able to get. In other words, we work with each other and we don't really need anything from each other. We have our separate businesses, but at the end of the day, I'm able to help bring evergreen value to them, and they're able to bring value to me because we collectively bring each other's best out of each other. And I think that's what we do really well here, is being able to identify the right influencers and work with them and create good content and be able to open up opportunities to them that they otherwise would have never had on TV or film and documentaries. We've put these guys into, Stranger Things. We've put some of our guys on ESPN. One of our guys, Callum Von Moger, just opened a new movie playing a young Arnold in a new movie called Bigger this past weekend. So there's a lot of things like that we are very proud of, and the relationships that we've been able to create over the last several years, and providing those opportunities has been really, really, a blessing for me, but also being able to work with those guys have been key.
So let's talk about the groupie love. So the groupie love. I'm not talking about the talent you represent. I'm talking about the type of attention that comes with this elevated presence, right? And what do you advise your clients to do, or how do you manage it? Because there's a lot of attention that comes with it.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of groupie love, I would say that's more so for the talent involved, and my biggest hurdle and job is to really keep our talent focused on the end goal. And I think that's the trust is the number one thing for us. And a lot of our athletes, a lot of the influencers we work with, they have a lot of people, of course, speaking to them and telling them what to do. And the groupie love And that's something that, we've been able to really, really work well with them on, because we make sure we keep an agenda in place, and then they execute that agenda with us, because at the end of the day, we're not in the business of wasting anybody's time. We want to be able to attain the goals we need to attain, and there's steps to each goal that we set for these guys, and that's what we've been able to do very well the last 2 years.
Have you or any of your clients, had a challenge with the superficial and the fakeness that comes along with the industry? Have you guys ran into that?
Yeah, we were able to differentiate who, the people that can really help us and the people that that are serious about their own careers.
Yeah.
Working with people like Arnold has been tremendous for us, because Arnold is in many ways a mentor towards us. We produce this Arnold Classic show every year in March, and he's as serious as it gets in the fitness and the bodybuilding space, but also, as a former governor, he's someone that we tend to really represent really well, and represents us. We do his after school all-star charity event. A lot of the athletes, they see that and they respect Arnold a lot. So those are things that really help us. They've seen people that we've worked with over the years, whether it's like The Rock or Mickey Rourke, people like that are very respected in the entertainment space, in the TV film space. And we continue to create those opportunities for a lot of those athletes in this space, because they understand the people we've worked with over the years.
So I want to know more about what in particular, is there a routine that you keep to manage all of this? Like your career trajectory has just flew, right? And it's going to continue to move forward. So what is there a routine you follow? You mentioned this a little bit earlier in terms of attributes, so staying true to yourself, staying committed to the project at hand. What else do you do? Like, what is your routine?
The beautiful thing about what I do is that, because we wake up every day, we stay motivated with all the aspects of our business. So, we have the content business, which is on a daily basis, is really, really, 24/7. We have editors working around the clock. I get to give my constructive criticism on all the work that we have. Those are things that inspire me, because we get to create something different every day. Also helping the careers of some of the people that we manage, some of the influencers. That's something that inspires me, because not only am I working to create a better business model for our company, but also we're also able to help somebody else's career flourish. And that brings me a lot of value and a lot of happiness, because it helps me feel more inspired and fulfilled to keep going and keep pushing for the people we work with and we work for. A lot of things like that. And also, I do a lot of public service work with the BronxNet, so I'm also a board member at the BronxNet television station. I get to really put in a lot of work in working with the Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz, being able to help bring more resources for film and TV to the Bronx, having a lot of directors and young producers learn about digital media, students that wouldn't otherwise know about film and TV and digital media. Because when I was growing up, I had no idea there was even a career in film and digital media, that is. And that's something that I'm really happy that I get to do, every day as well, as part of my routine. But those are things that really inspire me every day, to come to the office and continue to create revenue for our business, but also continue to provide value for our clients, our distributors, and continue to work with companies like Netflix. That's really what I'm really most excited about every day.
So I'm hearing a couple of things. So kind of like top 3 in order for you to, be successful and really pursue what you're trying to pursue is A, you need to be yourself, right? In and out all day, every day. B, you need to enjoy the work that you're doing and be fulfilled. And 3, you need to give back in some way or some form, so that you can continue to bless others as you've been blessed.
Absolutely. That's really the key. It's giving back. And my way to giving back is working with, representing talent that I feel like I enjoy working with. People that I want to be able to give back to, and also to a community. There's kids in the Bronx that I meet, students in college, for instance, that I'm able to help because they don't have no idea about digital media, they have no idea about film, TV. Those are things that really help us here, and we actually intern a lot of those kids here in our office.
That's awesome.
So we do that as well every year. We also sponsor a lot of events. We sponsor a designer every year for Fashion Week. Young designers. So those are some of the things that we do here as well. But our business is really mostly because, we continue to motivate each other and create projects that we want to work on. Not projects that people tell us we should do. We have a tremendous loyal audience now, worldwide audience that is inspired by fitness. And that's something that we really enjoy doing because we continue to create inspiring content, stories, and create empathy in a lot of our content.
So this industry is just going to continue to expand.
I think, without a doubt. I think fitness is one of those, what you say, it's like a cyclical business, right?
Yeah.
Where people always want to stay in shape, want to be motivated, inspired, and there's a lot of things in this world. The sports nutrition industry is such a massive industry, whether it's a multivitamin, whether it's a pre-workout, post-workout. Those are things that are going to continue to be existent in our world.
Yeah.
People want to continue to, be inspired and just be in shape and feel good.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. Earlier this week, I was shooting another interview, and the person that I was interviewing was talking about this new kind of like detox she was on. And my videographer and I were like, give us the deets, where'd you go, where's the list, how do we find out, where'd you get it? And it just reminded me of like how thirsty we were for like this information. And it's because it's so true, like this, it will never die. Like this industry will never die.
It won't. It's interesting. PR, I remember watching PR, for instance, like public relations firms. I work with many public relations firms for the year. Nowadays you see these influencers, this influencer marketing.
Right.
Influencers are inspiring people, are changing people's perception about their life, their products that they take,
right,
the workouts that they do. This is the world we live in today, and we work and we represent a lot of these influencers, and we see what the impact they have on these people. They get letters, emails every day from fans around the world, and that's an interesting world to be in, especially if you can give back and do things the right way and educate people the right way.
So what are your top 2 tips for people who want to get into fitness production?
As a publisher, we really strive to be, just create engaging content. Content that has a lot of empathy and it has a story to it. We want people to understand and learn about the people that we work with and educate people about who they really are. There's a lot of influencers out there that you see that will try to convince you to buy certain things and do certain things. And there's people that will really inspire you, but it's creating those stories for people to learn about who these influencers are and who these personalities are, working with guys like Arnold, Mickey Rourke, The Rock, Dave Bautista, that's what we enjoy doing. But I think that for anybody that's looking to go into the content space to create long-form narrative or documentary features, I think the goal is to be very passionate about a subject that you're doing, but also have an exit strategy in place to reach that audience that you're looking to reach. If you need to be able to identify your audience from the very beginning, knowing that exit strategy first before creating a project, and that's kind of the biggest value that I bring, especially coming from the finance world to the entertainment, TV, alternative content, documentary world, is being able to have an audience in place, knowing that we need to have an audience in place before we create a project. And that's what I really tell anybody that wants to go into the content space, is knowing who your audience is.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of just create content. I think the key is to identify who your audience is.
How do you figure that out?
You have to be passionate about a subject, and you have to be very passionate about a topic. Identify who that audience is going to be, and that's where you have to start.
So this is a question I ask all of my guests, and you've had to do this from what it sounds like countless times, even with you co-founding this company together with your business partner. What does collaboration mean to you?
Collaboration to me really means coming together, creating putting together all the synergies in one place. Being able to take all of the strengths that you have and put them on the table with your partner and your collaborators. There's a lot of things that I'm not able to do really well, and I'm very honest about that. And as long as two or three or four collaborators come together and they understand what their weaknesses are and their strengths are, and they're able to apply them together as a team, that to me is collaboration and synergy coming together.
So what's next for Edwin? Where's Edwin in the next 2 to 5 years? What is he doing?
For me, I think the number one thing for me is to continue to help people and help a lot of the clients that we work with and talent that we're working with, and that's where I see ourselves growing. I see us creating more of a subscription platform for our viewers. There are so many fans that we have around the world that want to continue to review our content, see our content, be inspired by our content, and we've grown our catalog so much over the last 2 years. In the next 2 to 5 years, we see ourselves having a huge library of fitness, motivational content, and documentary content for an audience that wants to subscribe.
Yeah.
And that's where I see us going in the next couple of years.
So this is, if you haven't picked up on it already, this is why Edwin is such a good businessman, and this is why the company has grown, because I asked him specifically what's next for Edwin, and he goes on to tell me what's next for the company. And you did it a couple of times in the interview. I'll be like, yeah, you, and it's always the company, it's always the talent. And I think that's a great trait and something to highlight about, what it takes to be a good businessman, or what it takes to be an entrepreneur that continues to grow and build scale, right? Is you're always thinking about the client, you're always thinking about the business versus yourself. But I want to ask Edwin personally, what is next for him over the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, to answer your question more directly, for me personally, I want to continue to be around my family the most I can. The little time that I do have is just spend it with my family. Maybe build a family soon, I don't know. But for me, it's to really spend it around my family. I think outside of work, that's what brings me the most happiness. And hopefully being in LA full time, I think that's the next step for us, and that's the next step.
Oh, we're moving out to the West Coast?
Yeah, so that's a big part of our long-term plan. Even though I love New York, and I feel like New York has been great to us in more ways than I can ever think of, and obviously family being here is a big factor. But that's where I see myself working, just working out of LA, but also being more involved with my family.
Okay. Awesome.
That's the number one thing for me, I think, at this point.
Well, I'll visit because I love the West Coast. So that is guaranteed. Well, thank you so much, Edwin, for your time, for educating us on the industry, sharing your story. I really, really appreciate it. If you guys want to learn more, tell them where they can learn more and how they can follow you guys, what they should do. Yeah, please check us out, GenerationIron.com, Generation Iron Instagram as well. You could find us there, Generation Iron on Facebook, and also the Vladar company, which is vladar.com. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Don't forget to leave your comments down below. Any more questions you have for Edwin, I'll probably go back to him and get your answers. So definitely make sure to leave your comments and your feedback. Super important. And stay tuned for the next video. Bye, guys.